The Colts matchup this weekend went from one that they were originally picked to lose to now being a game that they've probably got to try and win. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right. Thanks for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. This is your daily podcast covering your Indianapolis Colts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. What is up, friends? This is Jake Arthur and Zach Hicks of HorseshoeHuddle.com. I am your resident media member for the Colts, and Zach is your resident film nerd over at Horseshoe Huddle. And today, like every Friday, we are here to bring you our official preview of Colts and Packers. And I got to be honest, Zach, I hate that segment one has to be how it is, but we got to talk about injuries right off the bat. I think that's what really shapes this whole matchup on both sides, Packers and Colts. So you look at the Colts. The official injury report just came out a little bit ago. Julian Blackmon has been ruled out already. You know, one of your probably three most important defensive players. And then DeForest Buckner, Kwity Paye, and Josh Downs are all questionable. Matt Gay is back for what it's worth. He missed last week's game. And then for Green Bay, they've got a few guys questionable. Jordan Love, Marshawn Lloyd, and Jaden Reed, I think. Love, it feels like a little gamesmanship from Green Bay here. He suffered the MCL sprain last week, and immediately everyone was like, probably not IR, but he's still going to miss a little bit of time. He hasn't practiced this week, but he's still listed as questionable, probably just to try and keep the Colts guessing, even though they have been preparing for Malik Willis the entire week. But yeah, for the Colts, this defense, it was a group that already gave up over 200 yards rushing last week, did not have a great day, and now some of their best players have a big fat question mark on them.
Yeah. You know, we were saying all off season, Jake, that the worst case scenario for the Colts this year would be any kind of injury to Juju Brents or Julian Blackmon. Like even one of those guys missing some time with injury would be bad news for this Colts team with how weak their secondary is. And now we're at week 2 and we have no more Juju Brents for majority, if not all of the season. And Julian Blackmon is out with the same injury that he had late last season. So having that flare up again, I know the Colts said they don't think it's a long-term injury, but like, I don't know why we would not be concerned about that. I mean, he went from playing last week to not even touching the practice field this week whatsoever and being ruled out with an injury that he suffered last year. That's concerning to me.
Right.
So, look, again, we've had this conversation all off season, and we were very big on this show of saying go out and get L'Jarius Sneed, go out and get Justin Simmons. But we were also pretty big at like, look, you don't have to make those moves, but you have to bring in some playable players behind these guys. Mm-hmm. And I hope Dallas Flowers has the game of his life on Sunday. I hope Ronnie Harrison, who was a free agent in the first week of the regular season this year, who's back on the practice squad now and very likely to be called up and start on Sunday. I hope that those two guys have the game of their life. But why are we in this situation again? The same situation we were in last year, going into week 18, a playoff game last year, where we were starting, you know, Darrell Baker Jr. was playing a bunch of snaps out there at corner, and we were starting Ronnie Harrison at safety in that game. It's like, how do you see what happened last year with corner and with safety and just bring back the same depth this year? Like, I don't even care about bringing back the young starters. Like, I'm fine with you betting on Juju Brent staying healthy, even though it's a bad bet because he hasn't been healthy since high school. I understand betting on it because you invested a high pick on him. I understand investing in Nick Cross. You spent a top 100 pick on him, and in Julian Blackmon, a player that you like. But why is there nothing behind them? Like Rodney Thomas is on this roster. You're bringing up a veteran safety that you turned to linebacker middle of last season. You're bringing him back to start over Rodney Thomas. What's the point in having Rodney Thomas on this team then? You know, like, what's going on here? And like, you can say you like the cornerback room all you like. You kept 4 of the guys that you originally had in camp at corner. You know, because they waived Darrell Baker Jr. and all the rookies they drafted and grabbed Womack from the 49ers. So, like, the depth just simply was not good. Like, again, I understand starting the kids at that corner and safety. Totally get it. What are you doing with depth here? Like, these are half these guys like are not rosterable players. Like, I would have reset the safety room this offseason, at least the backups or whatever. The corners, you could have brought in some veteran just to be a safety net for when Juju Brents goes down with an injury. But now we're stuck with Womack versus Dallas Flowers, or maybe David Long is coming. Like, I don't know if he's going to get the call up at outside corner. Chris Lamons maybe starts on the outside. Like, I don't know what the plan is there. And then at safety, again, you're bringing in Ronnie Harrison, who wasn't even on a team last week, to be your starting safety this week. Like, they're lucky they might be going against Malik Willis because it could work out in their favor quite a bit. But, man, it's frustrating, something that was so foreseeable all offseason, as it's going to be something that bites you in the butt in the regular season, already happening in week 2. Like, this was so avoidable. Like, you don't even have to go out and get a Justin Simmons for the very meager contract that he signed, like an extremely meager contract that was very affordable. You didn't even have to do that, though. Like, what was it? The safety from the Jeremy Chin signed for like $2.5 million or $3 million with the Commanders. Like, you could have just done something like that, like a $2 million deal to someone to bring him in here to back up or be a rotational player. But now we're stuck with a linebacker playing safety, or Rodney Thomas, who they clearly have no interest in playing on defense anymore. So, I mean, it's frustrating. I don't know how we're back in this situation. It was such a foreseeable thing, and we can't get the same excuse of like, oh, you can't predict injuries. You could kind of predict a guy like Julian Blackmon, who's missed 26% of the games in his career missing some time. You could predict Juju Brents, who's missed like 80% of his career games, missing some time. So, very avoidable issue that's already rearing its ugly head here in week 2 of the 2024 season. And we'll have to see, man. Like, I know we had talked about these other injuries, but like, already Julian Blackmon and Juju Brents, like, come on, man. Come on.
Yeah. I'm with you. I am okay with them saying we like who we have, but that doesn't mean you don't add insurance behind him. You put a ton of eggs in the basket of Juju Brents, who has not at any point been 100% since you drafted him. He's always had something to deal with. And Julian Blackmon has never played a full season. You put so much eggs in the basket of those guys, and now, I mean, Blackmon, let's just say he's not going to be out for very long, but Brents is. You were really reliant on those guys' health, who have never been healthy, and now look.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I digress. We'll go on to other injuries. But, yeah, DeForest Buckner, that's kind of another one. Let's say he plays. When he plays through injuries, he's often on a snap count. So, let's say he starts but is only going to play like a quarter of the time, 25%. Is it Taven Bryan? Is it Raekwon Davis? Is it Tommy? Like, who is it? I mean, Raekwon Davis, you would hope would probably get an increased role, and hopefully he looks better because that's one of the only 2 free agents you signed. But Taven Bryan feels a lot like this. That's like playing Darrell Baker Jr. if you still had him. Like, what are you doing? So that one's going to be frustrating if Buckner's out. Again, even if he's in, he's probably not going to play his full workload.
Yeah.
Quiddy was at least back on the practice field Friday. So hopefully he starts and plays a normal workload. I don't think we're as worried about edge. You got Latu, you got Tyquan Lewis, you got Dio, and then Josh Downs. I'm not incredibly optimistic. It feels like he's probably still a week away. Because, I mean, he's only practiced 1 week, and he did miss like 5 weeks up to this. So if he plays, it's kind of like Buckner to me. I don't know if he'll have a full workload, but, I mean, maybe he still gets out there. I mean, some Josh Downs is better than none.
Yeah, and I don't think it's as pressing for Josh Downs to get out there just because, you have A.D. Mitchell, who looked good last week. You have Ashton Doolin, who looked really good last week. You have Anthony Gould, who's done some good things. So I don't think they're going to push it too much. Like, I think it's questionable, but probably more so doubtful unless Downs, like, looks really good on Sunday. Like, pregame, doing everything he needs to do. Okay, cool, get him out there. But it is promising that Pay seems to be trending in the right direction. Hopefully he can get out there. Buckner, like you said, maybe don't go do a whole full game load on him. Because look, the Packers are going to run it down the Colts' throat in this game. Like, it's going to be a run-heavy game plan, regardless if Jordan Love plays or not, because you're not going to have your sprained knee quarterback, even if he's out there, throw the ball 60 times. You're going to run the ball a lot. And if Buckner misses time, like, again, the Taven Bryan, hopefully Raekwon Davis is up to speed. it could look a lot like last week. And we don't want it to look like that again. So we'll see, man. This defense is already like ailing. It's already feels like it's flailing a little bit, and it's only week 2. So we'll see. I guess it can only get better after this week, hopefully.
Yeah, we're all looking for the guy who did this, basically.
Right.
Coming up next, we're going to talk about the offense because, vibes are better there. I like talking about the offense a little more. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals who are right for the role. That's why you got to check out LinkedIn Jobs, which has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board either. They actually help you hire professionals who you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role elsewhere. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't even visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, then you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are just wearing so many hats nowadays, and they might not have all the time and resources to actually do the hiring. So they just launched a feature, for example, that helps you write job descriptions. It makes the process even easier and quicker. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. And you guys have heard us talk a lot about FanDuel this summer. It's America's #1 sports book. Well, we got something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you can watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Plus, if that's not enough, be sure to check out FanDuel's Profit Boost in the app and use it for FanDuel's Double Your Winnings for all of Sunday, September 15th, pregame moneyline bets. Profit Boost will be live starting last night on Thursday, so view your account page now to learn more about your boost for this weekend. Right now on FanDuel, the Colts are currently 3-point favorites in this one, and the total point over-under is just at 40.5, which I feel like that's pretty low. I mean, if anything, I feel like this is a defensive or a game where the defense is just going to not have the time of its life. I think this just has Colts Browns 2023 written all over it to me. Maybe I'm being optimistic, but I think both teams are just going to be able to score a little bit whenever they want. So visit FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sportsbook.
And guys, the new Locked On NFL is here. Locked On NFL is now 2 shows every day. First, the madman Tyler Rowland kicks off your morning with a double shot of NFL espresso, and then stop by the barbershop with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. Add in the Locked On local experts, and you get unprecedented NFL insight, hot opinions, detailed breakdowns, all in 30 minutes. It's the new Locked On NFL, and it's twice a day. Make the madman Tyler Rowland and the barber Tony Wiggins your second listen at the new Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever your podcast. All right, guys, we're talking Colts offense because Jake and I actually want to have some fun on this episode. So previewing this Colts offense going into this Packers game, I think there's a lot of good things to build on in that first game that we saw against the Houston Texans. The Colts were one of the few teams in the NFL able to hit the deep ball. I know a lot of the conversation topics around national media when it comes to the NFL this past week was the lack of targets past 10 to 20 yards of depth of target. The Colts did not have that problem whatsoever. Anthony Richardson was ripping the ball down the field, had multiple passes that targeted receivers 50 plus yards down the field. So the Colts were really good at the home run ball. They were also solid in the intermediate game. I think, the Texans were able to take away a little bit of the intermediate game because their middle linebacker, Azeez Al-Shaair, was on one that entire game. He was absolutely fantastic in that showing, and I don't think the Colts are going to have the same issues in this one with Quay Walker. I don't think Quay Walker is the same caliber of linebacker as Al-Shaair, but
Also a little banged up this week too. He's been on the injury report.
Yeah. So again, I think it's a little bit better for the Colts there with the intermediate game, but the real thing that the Colts need to establish, and I'll let you build on this a little bit too, Jake, obviously the ground game, establishing the dominance in that ground game, get Jonathan Taylor going a little bit. Like, it doesn't need to be vintage Jonathan Taylor game where it's like 150-yard rushing game or anything, but just get him a lot more productive and efficient on the ground game. and then just building some kind of layups into your offense or some sort of quick hitters and easy answers for your offense. From what I understand with this Packers defense, they don't blitz a ton, but when they do blitz, it's a lot of nickel pressures, a lot of, bringing like corners and faster players. So the Colts got to have their outlets. I want to see Shane Steichen give more answers to his young quarterback in those situations this year or this week. I know last week some of it was Richardson just keeping his eyes down the field too much. But a lot of it was also just relying too much on stagnation in the short game. And I'd rather have some moving parts, again, more wide receiver screens, more RPOs, more RPRs to get the pocket moving a little bit. The play action game was great. The deep passing game was great. Intermediate was pretty good. Those are great. Let's build on that. But let's get the ball moving a little bit. Let's get some drives that are 8, 9, 10 play touchdown drives and not, look, the 2 play touchdown drives are awesome too. But like sometimes you need to establish your will a little bit and just drain a defense like the Texans were doing to the Colts last week. So I just want to see some shoring up right there with the Colts offense. The start was good last week. Let's just make it a little bit cleaner this week, a little bit more consistent. And I think this Colts offense can score on just about any team, especially the Green Bay Packers this weekend.
Yeah, we know the Colts will be able to be kind of that lightning in a bottle type offense where if you need the big play, it can come. But you got to establish a little bit of a rhythm, of course. I think the most obvious course of action there is to try and get Jonathan Taylor established, obviously. But I also noticed there wasn't really much in the passing game for the running backs either.
Right.
If you're dialing up shorter stuff just to establish a rhythm, get sticks moving a little bit, you could do that with Taylor or Tyler Goodson. Like you have options there. And honestly, that's stuff Anthony needs to kind of work on anyways, is the consistency of his short passes and the accuracy and the touch there. So that's a couple things I think they could do. But one thing I think is very good is, so last week there was really no run game outside of Anthony. It was all big play based. But I think that certainly helps you establish that run game in this one, because the defense is going to have to be scared of Anthony going over the top of them. They're not going to really be able to load up that box as much as they want to and try and stop Anthony and Jonathan running the ball. So Jeff Hafley's defense, 1 week in the NFL, so it's like, what's he going to – you don't really know his trends totally yet, because you got college players from Boston College, but, now you have NFL players. So the Colts, I don't know. They're going to probably try and just establish what they want to do rather than take advantage of what they think Green Bay's defense can do. But yeah, I would start with the run game, and I would work in more running backs into the short passing game.
Yeah, and one thing I do want to shout out is our friend of the show, Colts Film Room, who's going to be on all of our Monday shows going forward. So big shout out to Colts Film Room. Ben Boris over there does a great job. But he did find on his film review of the Packers last week that when who they play, the Philadelphia Eagles, when the Philadelphia Eagles used motion last week, the nickel corner did not move with the motioned wide receiver. He stayed on that play side, and you could, if you wanted to get like say A.D. Mitchell's in the slot to the play side or to the strength of the offense, you could motion him to the backside, and that nickel won't travel with him. They'll drop a safety down or pull a linebacker out to be on your A.D. Mitchell. Now, if Josh Downs does play, that's easy money for Josh Downs. Josh Downs was thriving on matchups like that last year. But even if it's A.D. Mitchell or Anthony Gould or Ashton Doolin, those are prime matchups for the Colts to take advantage of. So that's another way that you can kind of get the quick hitters going in your offense, have quick slants off that, option routes, quick outs, whatever you need to do to take advantage of those safety and linebacker matchups you'll get in the passing game. But for the run game, I think a real big thing just for the run game and overall just the consistency of the offense is getting into more of those third and short type of situations. Now, we saw the 3rd and 15 in the fourth quarter last week where Anthony Richardson threw it up to Alec Pierce for a big time gain. It was awesome. But outside of that, every time the Colts were outside of like 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, their offense struggled to get those first downs. And it's just, again, when you have a quarterback who's not super efficient yet as a passer, he's going to struggle with the pure drop back pass game in obvious passing situations. So the key for the Colts to just maintain offensive possessions is get into 3rd and manageable, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3, it's insanely hard to stop this offense in those spots because you have a quarterback who can run like a fullback, like Mike Allstott, basically, if he ever wants to. And then you have Jonathan Taylor, you have the RPR game and the RPO game. If you can get into those manageable parts of the field, those 3rd and 3s, 3rd and 4s, when Steichen can rip out those RPOs and RPRs, it's going to be hard for any kind of defense to stop that. So if the Colts want to maintain possession of the football this week, win 1st and 2nd down, get into 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2, improve the overall success rate of the offense, and they'll be able to really control the game and score some points. So I'm optimistic. I don't need Richardson to be a 70% passer by any means. Mix in some home runs with a couple of bunted singles and we're good. Let's just get on base a little bit. And then you can mix in some of those home runs and have some fun too. But I think this will be a good week for the offense, not because Green Bay's defense is a pushover or anything. I think they have a really solid defense, and I like what Hafley's doing. But I do think, they're going to learn from this first week, and they're going to be able to run the ball a little bit better against the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, I definitely like some of the things Philadelphia was able to put on film for the Colts to maybe kind of take advantage of as well. So pretty bullish on the offense this week. Let's go ahead and talk about the defense facing Malik Willis next. And now a word from our pals over at PrizePicks. Just one Caleb Williams passing yard gets you a win on PrizePicks every week in September. That's right, only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every football weekend in September. That's 4 weeks of free W's. Maybe. It didn't look promising at times for that one passing yard last week, but I digress. Don't miss this deal on PrizePicks because it's gone when September ends. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. PrizePicks is the best way to get action on sports in most states, which includes California, Texas, and Georgia. PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. I don't have to be like Denzel Washington and American Gangster. They got my money, and they got it now. Plus, PrizePicks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. So let's look at just a couple of the things they've got for this Colts matchup here. Tell me what you think about these ones, Zach. So Anthony Richardson, his more or less on rushing yards is 39.5. I'm curious on that one. I don't know. But Jonathan Taylor's is one I'm going to probably drill the more than on 79.5 rushing yards. I think he gets his first big one this week.
Yeah, I could see Taylor going for a big one. I really like that Richardson number because, when I was watching the last bit of that Eagles and Packers game last week, Hurts was killing them in the scramble game. And I think if the Packers are going to roll out a lot of man coverage, the second Richardson gets out of the pocket, he's going to have a lot of room to scramble. He might hit those 39 yards on one scramble. So I really do like that scramble number for Anthony Richardson.
Honestly, yeah, he did great last week. He had that one long one early on. So download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL and get $50 instantly when you play 5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play 5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus because it's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. Okay, Zach. So there's been, when we're talking about Malik Willis this week, I've heard some people say, oh, the Colts got this. It's easy. Malik Willis sucks. But then there's me who
and then there's me
wants to try and protect my feelings. I've seen this Colts defense turn backup quarterbacks into all pros. Like, there are numerous examples of it happening. And I think there's a recipe for Willis to do well. I was listening to the Move the Sticks podcast this week, and Daniel Jeremiah was like, you're not asking Malik Willis to look over this thing long-term and protect it. Like, you go ahead and pound him in the run game. Like, use him up as much as you can while you have him in place of Jordan Love and go to his strengths. Like, I don't know that I love the Colts defense. Number one, having to defend Josh Jacobs with the teeth, but then the quarterback they're playing as well is another one who's going to be able to run around. And you just gave up over 200 yards rushing. Like, I'm not going to say Malik Willis is going to be like a great passer in this one by any means, but will he be able to make enough plays to make this game dangerous for the Colts D?
Yeah, and we got to remember the Colts last year were a 9-8 team on the doorstep of making the playoffs, and they had multiple games against backups last year and below average quarterbacks. Now they won a couple of those games. They beat the New England Patriots, they beat the Carolina Panthers, two quarterbacks that just are simply below average at this point in their NFL careers. But also they lost to a lot of backups. Jake Browning came in and was near perfect against the Colts. Taylor Heineke had a fantastic game against the Colts. PJ Walker filled in for most of that Browns game. And I will say he didn't have that great a game, but he had a great final drive against the Colts in that one. And you could go to more of an average star. Derek Carr tore them apart as well. Like, it's not like the Colts only get destroyed by good quarterbacks under Gus Bradley and what Chris Ballard has given Gus Bradley these last couple of years. So yeah, I'm with you. Like, I don't think just because Malik Willis is starting, we should infer that, the Colts defense is going to be the number one defense in football this week or anything like that. It still poses a threat. I like the idea of what you just said with Daniel Jeremiah, where it's like you run him. I don't think Malik Willis is like a pure running quarterback, if that makes sense. Like, I know he's athletic enough to be it. I don't think he's like an Anthony Richardson, like it's running is in his genes, basically,
right,
like we see with Anthony Richardson or like with Lamar Jackson, but he can certainly do it. Great athlete at quarterback, big arm, not super accurate. I think what this really comes down to is when we saw the Jake Brownings and the Taylor Heinekes last year just absolutely destroy the Colts, what did those two quarterbacks have in common in those games? A good run game. Bijan Robinson killed the Colts in that game last year, along with Tyler Algier, I think is how you say his name. Yeah. Tyler Algier had a great game. You look at Chase Brown for the Bengals, killed the Colts in that game. The screen game was really working for those teams, and then they took advantage of the 1-2 coverage bust down the field. They were able to hit their targets down the field. The long one to T. Higgins, I believe, in the Bengals game, long one to Drake London, and I think Kyle Pitts had a touchdown against the Colts. So that's really what it is can Malik Willis hit the screen game? Can the Packers hit the run game very well? And can he hit on those 1-2 deep shots that are going to be there for the Packers? If they can do that, this Colts defense can give up 30 points to a backup quarterback. We saw it all last season. Now, spinning it more so to a Colts defense perspective, this is a much easier matchup than what they had last week, regardless if Jordan Love plays or not. Because even if Jordan Love plays, it's going to look like the two sprained ankles Carson Wentz, I think, to a degree, where it's like he's going to struggle to move in the pocket. He's going to be struggling to get off his spot. Now, it could lead to the Packers throwing more screens, which we know is a disaster for this defense, so we'll see with that. But it really comes down to getting Malik Willis or Jordan Love, whoever it's going to be, behind the sticks, 3rd and 7+, 3rd and 6+. If you can really bottle up that run game and force them into very obvious throwing situations where they can't, mix in a screen or a shot play on 3rd and 1 or something like that and just really take advantage of you, then you can win this matchup. But again, we've seen enough with this tenure at defensive coordinator and the players they have on defense where, yeah, you can't really just say this is a layup type game for this defense. It needs to be a get right game for this defense. But will it be? I don't think it's as set in stone. They're missing, 2-3 starters, maybe 4 starters. Buckner doesn't play. It'll be 3 if Pay doesn't play. So not super healthy on defense right now, coming off a really bad week for their defense. So we'll see if they can get him into like 3rd and 7+ and let this pass rush go to work. I think it'll be a good game for the Colts. But that's a lot of ifs right there because I don't know how much we trust the secondary with Dallas Flowers and with Ronnie Harrison starting, and potentially no Buckner up the middle and no Kwity Paye as their best run defending edge. Like, you got to stop Josh Jacobs first and get him into those 3rd and 7s, which might be a challenge for this defense.
Yeah, I think the pass rush really needs to be key. Like, they've got to make sure they force Willis into some mistakes. Like, it just can't be efficient passing. Like, again, you saw with Browning and Heineke. When he's passing, you need to get to him. Because another thing with Browning, I can't recall with Heineke, but I don't think they even hit Browning once.
No.
So the pass rush was non-existent. So we know as of last week, it looked pretty good. You were able to rattle a guy like CJ Stroud a little bit. Don't disappear now. Like, this is a game you cannot disappear because what else is there to be confident in the defense other than the pass rush right now?
Yeah, and the big thing I think with Malik Willis compared to a CJ Stroud, like Stroud is such a good quarterback to where if you get him behind the sticks, if you get him into a 3rd and long, if their drive is stuttering because of false starts or holdings, he's good enough to get his team out of that. Malik Willis or even a very injured Jordan Love, whichever one starts, I don't know if that player is good enough to get the Packers out of bad situations. So be disciplined. Don't get pass interference on 3rd and longs or pass interference to give them free downs. Don't go off sides and give them shorter distances and make them make the mistakes. Because when you have a quarterback like Malik Willis back there, if they get a holding on 1st down, that might be the end of the drive right there. It's not CJ Stroud where Stroud's going to get them that 1st down within 2 plays. It's a very different type of thing. So yeah, take advantage of the negative plays that you force. If you get a tackle for a loss or whatever, like that should drive them enough back to probably end the possession right there. So it really comes down to, again, just getting off to the passer, forcing negative plays, getting ahead on the run game. And again, we'll see what happens with this team. I'm not super confident in the secondary, but I'm not super confident in Malik Willis either. So well, like it could be a 30-point explosion for the Packers, or it could be a 10-point game for the Packers offense. I have no clue how to take it. That's kind of my overall view on it right there.
Well, then I'm going to put you on the spot real quick before we get off here. What's your score prediction?
My score prediction all week has been 23-13 Colts. Maybe I'm just, again, trending too optimistic because it's early in the season. I will say, though, like, this game is not a must-win by any metric. It's an NFC opponent early in the season. But if you have an opportunity to go against Malik Willis early in the season, and especially when you look at the stats, like only one team that starts 0-2 every year on average makes the playoffs. It's like an 11% rate of a team makes the playoffs if they start 0-2. It kind of makes this game close to a must-win for the Colts. So they got to be on their A game. I know they're banged up, but the Packers are pretty banged up too, especially at quarterback. You got to take advantage and you got to finish this one off if you're really serious about pushing for the playoffs this year.
Yeah, I've got 30-24 Colts in this one. The things I'm concerned about are not as big of a deal as I think the Colts' advantages are. They have the quarterback advantage in this one, even if Jordan Love is out there because Love's banged up. So normally the better quarterback is going to win. I think they'll be able to reestablish Jonathan Taylor. And even if their run game is just killing the Colts again, if you can sack Willis and force a fumble, if you can make him throw a dumb throw and it gets picked, or like there's going to be a mistake made by Willis that makes a difference. So I do think Green Bay will be able to score a little bit of points. That's why I give them 24. But I think the Colts will be able to do more than enough offensively and again, win 30-24.
Yep, let's go, guys. Let's make this a very optimistic week for the Colts. Let's get back to 1-1 and build some optimism for this team after a week 1 game where it wasn't too bad, but like now it's real time. You got to win this one. There's no moral victories in this game. Like it's a win or loss basically when it comes to this one. Before we get out of here though, I do want to remind you guys that our friends over at Locked On NFL are now 2 shows every single day featuring Tyler Rowland in the morning and then Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk afterwards. Make the madman Tyler Rowland and the barber Tony Wiggins your second listen over at Locked On NFL on YouTube, where we listen to your podcast. And if you guys don't already, make sure you're following at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at Zach Hicks 2, all on Twitter. Also subscribe to us on YouTube, where we listen to your podcast. We love your guys' ratings and reviews, and we'll catch you guys back here after the game on Sunday.